turn this trailer into a tiny house. Before it goes up, must come down.
Pull your cart, little boy.
This is a lot of work, but we'll get there.
There's still more water coming out of that thing.
Anyone else gonna go to the bathroom?
You can't afford a nice door.
Oh, yeah?
Cheap ass.
Oh, that's it? Really? That's how we're gonna go with that? By the way, we were gone. When you were gone, I made this. That's my face. Like I put my face on it and I drew a. This is my eyes.
Blah, blah, blah.
That's my nose. This is my nose and that's my chin.
I want to know why you're doing that. Can you explain?
I'm very tired.
Oh, well, I've survived so far. 2 months and a week of almost 24/7 with this guy.
Don't do it! Don't do it! Don't do it! Don't even think about it! Don't even dream
The walls
about
or the project?
Oh, but the project. The moment you think about doing a tiny home,
Go buy one.
check yourself into a mental institution. Hello everyone and welcome to TinyWanderland Chronicles, episode 27. My name is Jay, I'm your host. We're going to get right into this. We're not going to waste a lot of time. We had a lot to cover, a lot of ground to cover. Essentially what I think you're seeing here is the propane tests. And one of the things that they don't always tell you, but RJ did, is that when you're installing propane, a chemical that can literally kill you in a matter of seconds, you want to make sure it doesn't leak. Well, ours did. That's right. It did leak. It leaked a lot, but we got through it. I was not amused in this picture. Don't know what was going on, but just one of the many shots that Heather took. This actually... I want to spend just a couple of minutes here, or a couple seconds here, to say this is our first dump. This was Sinclair off of Freedom Boulevard and I-15, and they said that we had to pay them $5 if we dumped, but we could have as much water as we wanted for free. So we were testing the water tanks and the plumbing systems and everything. Now keep in mind that we were really tired. It had been one of those long 15, 20-hour days, and we were exhausted. And the initial water tank setup, our initial freshwater tank, had a pressure valve. Now, as you know, water goes in, air goes out. Well, when RJ set the system up, he set us up with a valve that we had to turn on and off. Now, that's great if you remember to do so. And in this case, we didn't. So here we were kind of standing outside the Tiny Wanderer, and all of a sudden, the Tiny Wanderer just shook like thunder. And we ran around and opened the back door up, and the floor looked like it had had a baby. So we immediately threw the valve, air came rushing out, and the floor settled back down. So we did have to repair the floor. It wasn't that major damage. I apologize for the pops in the microphone. For some reason, I'm trying to get it further away from me so there won't be so many pops, but it doesn't. It just seems to pop whenever it feels like it. Anyway, we later installed a valve that is always open with air. That's our bleeder valve. So when we're filling the Tiny Wanderer with water, you just basically fill it until water starts spilling out of that valve, and that lets you know the tanks are full. Moving on. Just more craziness. This was obviously a Monday. I pulled the Tiny Wanderer out, and I ended up dragging a propane tank that stuck right into the metal of our sewage frame. Now, if that had punctured it, it would have blown the Tiny Wanderer right off its wheels. Thankfully, it did not, though. I think the reason why I was taking it out was we discovered after all the tanks were in, the floor was in, the cabinet was in, the walls were on, that our sewage tank had a leak. What does that mean? Well, you guessed it. It means we had to cut through the entire floor and then cut through the polypropylene of the tanks to investigate the leak. And I think that's what we're seeing here. Yep, there it is. Cut through the floor, cut down into the tanks. Me and my rubber gloves and my mask and my light. You're about to see the inside of a sewage tank. If you have a weak stomach, I highly recommend that you look elsewhere. There is the valve that we installed. There is some sewage and debris. Just more work on the tank. We sealed it initially with caulking and then spray foam. I am here to tell you that did not work. And later on in Nebraska, I actually sealed it again with Flex Seal, and it still leaks to this day. Basically, if the fluid gets over that, where that seal is there, like right at the bottom there, I'm pointing at it like you guys can see it, it starts to drip. And then the further up it goes, the more it drips until it becomes a problem. So it's not something that can be fixed, but it's because it would require literally me to rip the entire floor of the Tiny Wanderer up. So what I will do is probably during the deconstruction of the Tiny Wanderer next year, I will probably try to fix it then before we sell the Tiny Wanderer. I don't remember what one we were on there. Tyler did let us borrow his dump trailer, and here is a shot of me driving down the road and the trailer coming off the hitch. So fix that pretty quick. Me back at the hotel chilling. More work. Not sure what exactly was going on here. Oh, I think we're getting closer and closer to solar here. Working on the heater that we had to return. There's Tyler's storage unit. Interesting thing about Tyler, if I didn't explain this in the past episodes, Tyler was renovating a travel camper. He was on his second year when we met him. We built the Tiny Wanderer from scratch in 4 months. So some people take longer at their projects than others. There is the mattress foam all cut out, the different slices ready to go. There's me hanging out in Lil Coo. There you can see that is the final configuration of the cabinets as it is today. More work. I think we were, like I said, working towards electrical. This is some safety stuff. We got a strap, fire extinguisher, and smoke alarm. You always want to have alarms. I think that the Tiny Wanderer has 2 carbon monoxide alarms, 1 air filtration alarm, 2 smoke detectors, and 2 fire extinguishers. When you live in a small space like this, you want to be protected as best you can. Me installing electrical, working on some more electrical, just kind of chilling. These were taken during a really vicious storm. Like, the rains were so horrendous, we had to shut the storage unit door and wait it out for like 3 hours. We couldn't even get to Maggie on the outside. It was so intense. And Heather took some really cool pictures with the red lights glowing. There's the rope light I told you about that we never used in a previous episode. That's what it looked like when it was on in a test. More work on the electrical. Not sure what we're looking at here. More work on the electrical. Heather making another run for electrical connectors. Again, Heather was my saving grace when it came to getting things that we needed that I couldn't always go get. She got fuses. There's her checking out the fuses. Home Depot, of course. Not surprised to see a picture of that. There's me working on the electrical. And then, guys, it was time to head back to Hurricane to see Drew Blad. Now, before we go any further into this, I'm going to leave a picture of his sign up for you. I want to let you know that what Drew did was good. It was professional, it looked good, it turned out good, and he was paid for it. The mistake that he made that wouldn't be found out for 6 months later was fatal to the storage system. It ended up killing the batteries I paid for. The storage, the panel that we put on the roof was almost destroyed, and the wiring job was done in such a rush that it actually separated during the winter. So what Drew did do was professional, and I'm not going to say anything bad about Drew in that regard. But I will say this. The mistake that he made cost me $400 or $500 in batteries. another $200 in cabling, and I went through several days in the winter in Nebraska where I almost froze to death. If it wasn't for the fact that the heater was propane, I would have froze to death. I would have died. So that's how serious it is. There's currently a pending civil lawsuit against Drew Blad concerning this out of Hurricane, Utah, out of I believe it's still Iron County. I do not know the results of that lawsuit, and we probably won't know for some time. But it's just basically negligence of services. So here's Drew and his assistant, really nice man. I can't remember his name. I think it was Carrie. There's a pictures Heather took of us putting in the solar. There's the inverter. That was a big baby. Drew blew the first one up when he was installing it and had to replace it with a second one. So the one that's in there now is actually the second one. Me working on putting the wall together. I found it very interesting that I hired Drew to put the system together, yet I was the one putting the wall together. Anyway, we got it all hooked up. Everything's situated. There's the solar panel going on. Big baby, 400 watt panel on the back. There's Drew right there off to the left, installing some very heavy duty welding cable. That's me doing my King of the World pose. There's Drew and Carrie and myself rigging up the batteries. Tip, if you ever do solar, make sure you go to a qualified professional, and also do not install your batteries on the outside of your vehicle. It will come back to haunt you, as it did me. Everything looks shiny and new there, but trust me, it didn't last that long. Me passed out, not surprised, passed out again. More work on that's the final look of the electrical before I actually did any maintenance and buttoned it up and put all the brackets in. And you'll see that in a later episode, I'm sure. Me just chilling out, just trying to get my head together. So much work. A little bit of a moment of brevity there. I bought some funny sunglasses at the Dollar Tree. Once again, checking the list and checking it twice, 3 times. Me and Home Depot. More Home Depot work. This guy here, his name is Aaron Root, and he was anything but. He's actually responsible for designing the system that is holding up the table that I'm actually doing these episodes on right now. Aaron was fascinating, and I loved working with him. And I actually met up with Aaron approximately 2 weeks ago, and he helped me on another project that became the second part of the table that is now supported by its own support system. So thank you to Aaron. If you ever see any one of these, I don't know if you will. This is me and I think Tater or Kevin, I can't remember his name. More pictures, the moon coming out, some light shots of the solar lights. There are 8 solar arrays on the Tiny Wanderer. They all have 3D cameras in them. So if you walk by the Tiny Wanderer at night and the light comes on, guess what? You're on camera. And there's a picture of me in bed with Oscar chilling at the hotel. That's all I got for you guys on episode 27. As you can see, it's coming together. We got lights, we got electrical, we got insulation, we got walls, we got floor, we got ceiling, we got solar. There's still much more to come, though. Feel free to follow us on social media. There's your respective social medias, and I'll get out of your hair in about 5 seconds, and I'll see you guys next time on Tiny Wanderland Chronicles.